to start the game. So far, and not any news. Ah, here it is. Here it is. So let's click in. It's going to be game number 1 on Atlantean Relics. So to show you the map, it looks like this. It's kinda like a crater lake, basically the same strategy, but you are having a lot of relics in the middle, not just normal gold mines. And looking for the other players, or rather for the other gold, you can see that there are just 2 little gold mines, and that's pretty much it. There is absolutely nothing else for either of the players in here. So yeah, that is something that you need to take care of, as this is like 1600 gold, and you won't be getting anything else above that. You can already see that Sniper is working to lure the deer in, so that he doesn't need to spend extra wood for the mill. And looking at the civilizations, we have quite interesting ones. We have actually for NC Vikings, Spanish and Mongols, whereas for CZ we have actually Vikings and double Mongols. Well, that's a definitely interesting idea and something that you don't see really all that often. As if you actually remember some past games from RTSD and literally any tournament, you usually don't see double civilizations, as it kinda limits your potential to actually switch strategies and whatnot. But here it's probably going to be just for the best, and let's see if it's going to work out for them. In the last semifinals between BYT and LOS, we have seen 2 very different strategies from both of those clans. I think LOS went for the relics, whereas BYTs actually went for very early trade, and it seemed like that the early trade was the correct decision. So let's see if it's going to be reflected on this map as well. We have Spanish from NCs, so I'm kinda guessing that NCs could be attempting to do that yet again in here. So yeah, there's something to be keeping an eye on. As you can see, that Skull is already also working on the deer to get it closer to his TC, as there's literally nothing else to do in the early stages before you get the dogs out and get the dogs out like D-O-C-K, not D-O-G, and get ready for the fishing in there. Valve Pop, the Spanish, I kinda guessing this is exactly for the trade in here. There are not really any kind of other reason that you could be playing them on a water map like this, so yeah, you would be expecting that to be coming into play from them. Also looking at the spawn, we have CZs on the left side, whereas on the right side we have NCs. It's going to be kinda easy to take care of, or rather take stock of what is happening for either of those players, and so far I'm not really seeing any kind of stolen boars or whatever. Everybody just picking the boars right next to their TCs, and there shouldn't be all that much of a problem for either of the teams in that department, as we are not on any kind of map like Arabia. So dogs are being dropped right now, with blue player going for pretty much a standard position, a bit into cove, but I'm kinda thinking that he doesn't know about it yet. Yeah, of course he doesn't, as he doesn't have the scouting with his sheep that finished at all, and he's probably going to lose the sheep as well because of the scout by Sniper, who is trying to look what is happening in here, but obviously since it's a teammate, it's not going to matter all that much. Next dog, for example, exactly from the teal player, it dropped quite nicely positioned in here in the middle, so he's going to be having a very easy time going into the mainland, or mainland, let's call it an island, not really mainland. And next dogs are placed also by Andorin. Red is kinda interesting, as he's maybe thinking that he could be a bit aggressive towards his opponent green. So I'm kinda thinking that we should be seeing Galley Rush from Follow Your Mind, but at the same time he's Mongol. Mongols usually like to advance into faster castle ages, so let's see what's going to be the strategy from them. Yannick should be the one who will be going for Galley Rushing on the right side, also having a dock quite nicely positioned on the promontory in here. Maybe we'll be expecting on the right, but well, this is kind of more defensible position and a bit more into the middle of the map, so he is hoping that he can be having as short road to the mainland, or rather to the main island, as possible. Let's turn on the chat, so that we potentially don't have any kind of spoilers in here. And the last dog to have a look at is right now from Skull, and he will be very close to his ally Yannick. They are on one screen, so it should be pretty easy for them to defend if they both go for some kind of galley rush right off the bat. Second dog built by the Mongol, CZ Skull, who is also going to be the first to advance into the feudal age, and you can see that all 6 are advancing at reasonably the same times, but Skull together with Sniper are definitely going to be the first ones. So they seem to be playing the same strategies as the Mongols, having 17 and 18 villages. That's pretty much the same. The Spanish Viking 20, whereas Andorina's Viking is having just 19. He's going to be slightly, ever so slightly slower than his opponent Yannick, but that's probably not going to matter all that much. This is just such a minute difference that it usually doesn't matter at all. Here, nicely placed in here, so yeah, not really far from the DC or anything. And we should be seeing who is going to be aggressive in here. A bit of a wall in on the left with Scout. Is actually Green having Loom? Yeah, he is. He's having Loom, so he's not going to be facing any kind of opposition. And look at how Andorin is already closing in with Sniper for the kill. Yeah, was a bit late, unfortunately, and that's a bit of a problem actually for Andorin, because he was already one villager down, as opposed to Yannick, the Viking from the other team. And well, right now he has lost yet another Willy without finishing the wall in, and that's really something that could cost you quite a lot of time, and especially gathering time in the early game. That could be quite important when you are galley rushing or even attempting to make as fast advance into the next age as possible. So you can see that Follow Your Mind is definitely thinking quite a lot about securing this choke point, as on the left is nicely covered by the wood. And this is really going to be quite easy for him to defend, as there shouldn't be basically any way at all for either of those players to go through to the other side. Possibly a bit more for Follow Your Mind right now, because Andorin is going to be having a bit more room to wall before he is actually safe altogether. So a bit of a galley rushing in here at the top between Follow Your Mind and Andorin. And since Sniper is also joining in, that's going to be a bit tougher for the red player, and he definitely has to hope that he's going to be having help. But so far it doesn't seem so, as Skull in the middle is going for the right side, and he seems to be helping his ally on the right, as Yannick is quite nicely occupying the waters near Pedro. Pedro is having 3 docks, so he's definitely thinking that he can galley rush his opponent quite nicely. 3 docks also for deal. Green was having already 4th. Well, that's kind of interesting development in here, as I would be expecting that some players would be going for some faster castles, but definitely not going to be the case for NCs, at least from what we can see so far. 3 docks from red as well. Yellow is having also, pretty much everybody is having 3 docks. 4th being built by Yannick right now, and yeah, these are the 2 Vikings, so that's kind of expected from both of them. Also nice falling on the land in here by Yannick, but not any walling really all that much by Blue player. He's having just walls on here, so not really all that much of a difference, and there's still quite a few squares to actually go through. So potentially if Yannick was going for some early aggression, but looking how he's Viking, this is probably not going to happen. But he could maybe allow his allies in the middle, for example the Mongol Skull, to go for a bit of an offensive if he just deletes the wall in there. So let's see if there's going to be something that will be happening. But so far, let's go back to the water, where the battles are going in earnest. Okay, so this seems like more or less a bad battle, pretty much for Sniper, who is finding himself in a pretty tough spot as he's fighting through opponents. But at the same time, it also means that Blue shouldn't be having all that much of opposition. On the top, there's a bit of a purple, but yeah, this time it's him fighting in a pretty bad battle, and he should be really taken a bit more careful. Thinking a bit more careful about what he's doing, because he's losing quite a lot of boats, and that's something that he doesn't want to do, because if Sniper can actually run away from that with at least some of the boats, he will be having the advantage in numbers, and that could be deciding the early battles in here. Follow Your Mind actually trying to catch them, which he did quite successfully. Well, this boat is more or less dead. Whereas at the top we have seen NC Andorin already moving into the offensive and having quite a decent navy right now. So that's a bit of a problem potentially for CZs, because I don't see really all that many navy on the left, but at the same time there's absolutely nothing. You can see that the red player is having no fishing boats at all, which is kind of interesting. You can see fishing just from Skull and Andorin, and not really anything big. So they don't really seem to think that the advantage of the water economy is going to be anything important so far. So yellow just biding his time. Seems doesn't want to really engage with purple. Well, purple is actually trying to fight on the right, but not really all that much, because you can see that blue is just hiding everything inside his dock and not having anything extra, and well, also a bit of an idle that could be working a bit more than she is right now. The water battle seems to be so far going for CZs, I would be kinda guessing, even though with the sheer amount of boats by Andorin, I wouldn't be really all that convinced that it's gonna be turned around for NCs. With a few boats by Sniper as well, but looking how Blue is basically not doing anything. Yeah, we might be seeing switch into the Castle Age from NCs pretty soon, because they are definitely not thinking that they can be fighting in the Feudal Age all that much. So, Andorin at the top, with Follow Your Mind in here, trying to control what is going to happen by Sniper. But Sniper also isn't building all that many extra boats, which is kinda interesting. Looking how he does have a pretty decent number of them, and could be potentially helping Andorin quite a lot. And it seems like that NCs are kinda doing all they can to avoid any kind of fighting, which is interesting, as yeah, they do have the numbers at the top, I would be thinking. Combination of Andorin and Sniper, but well, at the bottom it is kinda clear that Pedro cannot fight against his opponent Yannick. Well, it is the fight between Spanish and Viking, and that usually goes just one way. And they're trying to make sure that he sees absolutely everything on the map. Just switching to his point of view to actually see how much he does see. And he sees really a lot. He knows absolutely everything about the shoreline in here. And that's very nicely played by him, because he will be seeing if potentially his opponents are sending some kind of help to, yeah, Pedro on the right side. So far not happening though, with Skull and Follow Your Mind having a pretty decent navy on the left, but well, yeah, it is still the same story, and Andorin trying to retreat and maybe find something to kill on the way home around the main island in the middle. So far not really all that many engagements, just a bit of Sniper right now, who is taking advantage of kind of fortuitous circumstances right next to the docks of Yellow, with first advances into the castle being from Skull, Pedro and Sniper. So that Skull is Mongol, Sniper is Mongol as well, and Pedro is Spanish, so that's interesting from them. And so far we don't really see any kind of market being built, as I was talking about at the start of the game. And well, looking how the water is not decided either, we will probably be seeing quite interesting battles once we reach the castle ages and the war galleys. Seems to be brewing into a bit better battle, with Andorin having quite a lot of boats. And oh, this looks like a pretty nice triple, and very nice maneuvering actually by CZs, who are able to catch him off guard. But right now this is just going to be trying to force him into some tough spot, and he seems to be aiming to the shoreline here, and this is going to be quite nice battle for CZs. Pretty horrible for Andorin, but yeah, you can see where this is going, and he shouldn't be able to retreat from this. And this is really very nicely played by CZs, and total annihilation of the army by Andorin. And this could actually be pretty game changing, because Andorin, without his navy, he will be basically out of the water altogether. And even without the Castle Age, he still had pretty strong navy that could have stopped CZs once they are right now going for the war galleys. But this is not going to happen now, and they are in pretty huge advantage, CZs, and they should be the ones taking all the relics in the middle and potentially even owning the water altogether. But let's not call it a day yet. So I would be expecting that maybe could be see something from Pedro. And of course Sniper, but so far they are not going for war galleys, which kinda tells me that they are not interested in the water battle at all. But maybe they could be going for some fire ships. So far not happening. Let's switch also into Sniper. If we're going to see something, probably not. Okay, so that seems like that CZs are actually going to be the masters of the water, as there are absolutely no reinforcements. You can see that on the left, Andorin has been trying to build at least a few boats, but unfortunately for him, Follow Your Mind was already paying quite a lot of attention and is very nicely limiting any kind of reinforcements and should be controlling him quite nicely. Coinage already coming in for Andorin. You can see the trade right now being set up by NCs in here, whereas CZs are still not going for it, but they might be already going for... Yeah, here we see Monastery finally for the Mongol Skull, and on left, are we going to see yet another Monastery, or for Follow Your Mind? Of course not, because he's just now advancing into Castle Age, as is true for Yannick as well. So they will be advancing in just a matter of moments, as there is not any kind of opposition. Few boats from green still, but there are not going to be any kind of problem for war galleys, of course, by Skull, and this is just a question of time before the dominance on the water is going to be fully assured for CZ clan. So economy right now developing, for example, for Sniper, who is having already 3 TCs and a market, yet another market on the right side from Pedro, to basically assure quite quite long trade route, and it might be a bit problematic because there's this choke point, which I kind of think is going to be very unfortunate, as I am a bit worried that actually the trade cards might be attempting to go through this one square, and that could be a bit of a problem that this guy might have to plug in so that they are going around the forest. Otherwise, the trade route seems to be more or less okay, but yet again, it's pretty much the same problem, and yeah, you can see that this trade card is going along the wall, and this could become a bit of a problem, and they need to be careful about the optimal path for the trade cards. On the right, castle already been dropped by Pedro, so he's prepared exactly in here, and it seems like that right now he's through the petards, and he will be attempting to raid his opponent, but he's already waiting with quite a lot of crossbowmen and skirmishers, but unfortunately for him, he might be a bit too late to... Oh, this is just the nick of time, but he is going to be a bit too slow, as yep, unfortunately for for purple, blue was already aiming exactly there, and yeah, this is a bit too late for him, and he will be allowing conquistadors inside his home base, and also to potentially abuse his ally in the pocket, so that's a bit of a problem for him. Oh, another two wheelies dead. Come on, Yannick, you seriously underestimated this, and I kinda don't really see why he was sending those villagers in when he knew that the conquistadors are already there. That was a bit of a mistake for him, but right now it should be a bit better for him, but still, since the crossbowmen are going to be here, and the maneuvering possibility with the conquistadors is much better for the blue player, he will be potentially killing villagers on the left side, on the wood line. He's already at least a bit retreating, which is definitely something that he should be doing, going for another archery range, so it's going to be four archery ranges already from him, and this is quite unlucky and a pretty big mistake by Yannick in the early stage of the castle ages here, as he is losing quite a lot of villages. He has lost like at least 5 villages in here, and that's quite a lot, and it will be a bit of a problem for him, of course, for the next stage of the game. On the left we don't see anything, as this choke point is quite nicely guarded by both sides without any kind of chance of anybody passing through. And on the water, yeah, this is decided without any kind of problem, and everybody is just controlling their parts of the map, and there's not going to be anything happening at all with just 2 remaining boats by Andorin, and this is going to be it for NC's water battles. Still a few on the right actually, that's going to be a bit longer, but yeah, kind of thinking that Skull is going to be discovering them rather sooner rather than later. But Pedro is going for a pretty strong push, hoping that he can land some pretty good mangonel shot. And he definitely seems to think that he can make life difficult for Yannick, and I kinda have to agree, because at this stage CZs are going to be out of gold whatsoever, so they are probably going to be forced to sell quite a lot of stone. You can see a lot of stone being gathered right now from Yannick, and I kinda thinking this is exactly what is happening, because so far we don't really see all that many monks be transported with relics. He's already working on it. Let's switch into Skull, who is having 2 relics inside his monastery, but that's pretty much it. Those guys just waiting to gather extras in the middle. And Follow Your Mind is actually slinging into Skull. That's interesting, but kinda understandable, because Follow Your Mind is on the left, not going anywhere against Andorin, and it seems like that Skull in the pocket could be much more important for the next game, especially on the right side, and helping Yannick, as he already has some buildings inside his base. So yeah, this is exactly what Atlantean Relics map is all about, with monks gathering as many relics as they can and transporting them back home, and well, Andorin is trying to at least make life difficult and trying to snipe some of the transport ships, but yeah, he won't be successful because Skull is paying quite a lot of attention and will be killing all the boats right now. And these guys going back to the mainland. Yep, quite nicely. So let's go back into the right side and see that castle is really already being dropped by CZ Skull, as he is being slung and advancing to Imperial Age, I kinda think reasonably soon. Andorin is still in Feudal Age, and since he's Viking, that's kinda understandable, because Vikings usually are the civilization that is slinging once the battle goes past the water. And well, this is kinda unfortunate really for CZs, because they are having their Viking actually go into some kind of army. In Castle Age he can still do quite well with crossbowmen, but it still isn't ideal, and he definitely has to hope that Skull is in the next age soon and is able to help him sooner rather than later. Pedro is making a pretty strong claim, although on the base, as he's right now through, which allows quite a lot of Conquistadors to go into some raiding. And he could be quite successful, because Purple hasn't finished the wall in here in the middle, and will be allowing all those Conquistadors to basically ravage the economy of Purple. As you can see that Yellow has already quite nicely walled himself in, as he was exactly expecting that there could be a bit of a problem with those mounted hand cannoneers. So let's see how far are they actually going to be going. But with outpost being built, this is pretty nicely played by Yannick, who is going to be seeing exactly the movement of enemy units. But he is a bit slow, and Yellow has to be careful because he doesn't want to lose those wheelies building the bases in here. So castle already in, which basically tells and sees that there is going to be a double on the right side, which also should be signaling that sniper should be going to the right side rather than left. He's having quite a lot of houses in here, but not much else. So it seems like that if he wants to help, which is not assured, but I kind of think it is, because he's of course a Mongol, he might be interested in building some units in here, or rather building some military buildings and of course units down here as well. He's already sending villagers, so he's recognizing that he will be needed to help his ally quite well. And Pedro in the meantime is though dropping a castle and definitely thinking that he can take his opponent on very easily. Too far second castle for the Mongol Skull, who is advancing into Imperial Age, but same is true for the enemy Imperial Age by Sniper and also Pedro, and it really seems like that NCs have chosen the better strategy so far, and they are having upper hand quite convincingly on the land, even though on the water they have lost. You can see all the relics right now being gathered by Skull, who is already probably on the second monastery. No, still not. 6 relics right now. In extra monasteries somewhere else, as he should be, because obviously monastery can gather just 10 relics from the other parts of the map. So monastery also for the red player, you can see he's already having 6 as well, as he's working on transporting some for himself. And still quite a lot of them for the taken, and it doesn't seem like that Yannick will be interested in taking them on himself. So we can see that purple, or rather blue player, is quite nicely preparing for his advance into Imperial Age, going for already chain barred in armor, which is telling you that he's going to be switching into Cavaliers and Paladins. So yeah, this is exactly what is going to be needed against all those crossbowmen with elite skirmishers from the Viking player. And this is really kind of unlucky for CZs, because Viking player fighting in Imperial Age is definitely going to be a bit of a drag, and they have to be hoping that Skull will be more than strong enough to deal with this kind of problem. Yet another strategical castle, basically trying to be controlling this choke point this way through if blue happens to be coming through the walls in here. And this is going to be quite important for him, as if he can control the choke points, he will be on his way to potentially take his opponent full on. But Teal is already dropping a castle in here, so he will be the one helping Pedro on the right side. This is going to be developing into a pretty interesting fight between the Spanish and Mongol, and the Mongol and Viking, and I'm kinda thinking that the Viking is not going to be building all that many units in the next stage of the game. I'm kinda thinking that he's probably going to stop making anything, potentially even sling into Skull as well, or maybe just switch a sling into Follow Your Mind and hoping that he can actually propel him into some kind of attack against the slinging Viking on the left. That could be definitely some kind of idea. I'm just waiting for the Imperial Ages and of course Elite Cannon Galleons, as they are going to be pretty strong, looking at the bases right next to the shoreline, and I would be expecting that of course from the Spanish player, as usually they are the ones going for it, but you can see that purple together with yellow are taking quite nice care of the shoreline, and they seem to be so far quite nicely careful about what is going to happen. Trade being secured at the bottom, which is of course a bit problematic, because it will mean that they will have to actually delete the wall in here. And oh, he might have to delete the university as well, because there's quite a lot of choke points, and yeah, the base is not really prepared for uninterrupted trade routes. So bit of a problems for CZs in the trade line in there, with Trebuchet already coming in, and the castle will be coming down reasonably soon, because so far there is not any kind of opposition by the CZ clan. They're having quite a lot of light cavalry, just having a look what's going to happen in opponent's base. So far not much interesting. And also a lot of purple villies actually trying to help in here as he's repairing his last castle. This is pretty interesting, and you don't really see this all as often, that you can actually repair your allies castle. So nicely played right now by Yannick as a team play. And yeah, this is kind of telling me that he is going to be switching into some kind of support role and hoping that he can be strong enough. At the same time though, Yannick is under pretty heavy attack also from Sniper, who is already preparing with the trebuchet on the right, hoping to push through. And we have seen a very interesting landing actually by CZ Skull on the doorstep of Andorin, and he will be hoping that he can actually make life difficult for him somewhere here, but possibly not, because there's already a castle by Sniper prepared together with some kept rams, and that will be pretty much it for this forefront base by CZ Skull. But nice idea. Fortunately for him, it's not going to be strong enough. But looking at this idea, he might actually be having the same about here, and that will be working quite nicely. And oh well, trade cards are actually going through here. That's pretty horrible, because I don't think that NCs are actually aware at all. Right now they might be, with those villagers coming in, but this is pretty bad for them, as they are going to be losing quite a lot of them. And I was just going to say that actually an NC Sniper might be aware, but he isn't. He's going to lose quite a lot of villies in here, and not just trade cards. And oh well, why is actually this happening? Why is this happening? Because there is this choke point. Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. That could be a bit of a problem. And well, they are finding their ways absolutely everywhere, and so far they shouldn't really be going anywhere else. Possibly this choke point is also the reason why they are picking the unoptimal route, and also the placement of the markets in here is of course quite problematic, as they are trying to go the shortest way, and it's unfortunately across the shoreline, and that's a lot of problem and a lot of death trade cards in there. At the bottom, the battle is not going anywhere all that much, even though it slightly seems that CZs are fighting a bit of a losing battle. As NC Pedro together with Sniper are having a pretty decent army right now, but on the left you can see just a few skirmishers and crossbowmen and some kind of Mangurais, but it doesn't seem to be enough at all, and NCs are definitely having a pretty good strategy right here, right at this spot, killing one castle from the Mongol, who is right now dropped to just 2. I don't see any other castle being built. Nicely vault in here at the back, but unfortunately it's probably not going to be all that much enough, as yeah, he's probably going to be losing this DC and also this castle, and once he loses the castle, this probably could mean that CZs are going to be out of position, especially in the middle in here, and they will be hoping that they can make something happen somewhere else. I would be expecting that maybe on the left they could be making a push yet again on Andorin, because that could be some kind of idea in there. But the amount of trebuchets on the right is pretty strong, and without any kind of chance by the Viking player and also the Mongol from CZ to go near them, that's a big problem. And of course the castle is coming down just now, and the second one, the third one already, it's probably going to be coming down very soon as well. So yep, that's very nicely played by NC so far. So let's have a look at the other parts of the map, what is going to be happening in there. Quite a lot of water economy by Follow Your Mind, who is making quite clever use of the middle island for his docks. Still gathering quite a lot of relics. Let's check around the map how many are they actually having. 9 relics for yellow. Nothing else. Whereas red is having already 5, 6. That's about 10, 16 relics already, and working on more, so he's going to be having quite a lot of them. You can see he's having quite a lot of monasteries, but he needs to be preparing. Yeah, he's already been building quite a lot of markets, and on kind of interesting spot. Not really sure why he's building them here, but yeah, we'll see pretty soon, I guess, and there is going to be some reason behind that. A lot of boats in the middle, not really doing anything all that much, with Onager waiting for them, basically to put them out of commission altogether. Yeah, that's just kind of defense by Andorin, and probably hoping that he can maybe cut his way through the forest and make life difficult for his opponent sometime soon. So yeah, this is not going to go anywhere else. Whereas on the right side, the battle is kinda inevitable, just advancing further as yet another castle has been dropped. And dropped down by NCs. And CZ Skull is right now down to just the 1 at the very back, with at least some stables, and he's switching onto Hussars. Well, that's a bit of a desperation move, usually, by Mongolian players. And basically meaning that he has no gold, but he seems to be having enough, but doesn't have enough castles, of course, to build these Mangurais, as they are taking quite a lot of time, and without castles, it's very hard to do anything. This castle is probably not going to be standing for much longer, as those trebuchets are going to be taken down. going to be taking it down in just a matter of moments. That's just a question of time. And well, Siege Workshop being built right in the middle of Yannick's base, and this is going to be quite threatening because he will be able to push out whatever siege he wants. I would be expecting some siege ramps or something to basically level the base, and also quite a lot of houses, which will put Yannick into a pretty tough situation. Looking at the release, Yannick is also in a pretty tough situation with just 85 areas. Andorin is having 103 as a Viking from the other team. Then it's 136, 132 for NC, and 105, 136. So you can see there's a big difference, and it's actually like 20 and 30, 50 villages more for NCs, and that's a pretty big difference, and really could be making a very convincing one for the battles to come. So they are slowly losing ground NCs or other CZs here. So let's have a look somewhere else if maybe CZs are going to be attempting something fun. They have landed yet again exactly at the moment, or rather at the place that we have been talking about a bit earlier. And well, this is not really a bad idea, but unfortunately it was spotted quite on time by NCs, and they are defending against this quite nicely. They've already killed the release, which means that the siege workshops or other siege units are not going to be useful at all due to this mango dice, and well, with the castle here in place as well, the trade cards should be protected from further death, and just you can see all those dead ones in here. A wall being built in here, that's probably just making sure that the trade cards actually go to the right and don't go through here, which is a dangerous place since they don't really control the water in here. Yeah, just trying to make sure that the trade is safe, and it seems to be. And yeah, he's slowly but surely working on actually trying to make sure that the trade cards don't have all that much of a choke point place in here in this spot. On the left, not really much happening with just the onagers trying to make sure that they kill everything inside with the villager very nicely. Trying to repair it, but he needs to be a bit more careful as those boats are a bit stronger than they seem to be. Quite a lot of onagers though, so there's not going to be any landing from CZs. Nicely played in here, so let's go back to the battle on the right side where Yannick has basically lost his whole base, as he doesn't have anything at all, and yet right now CZs are calling it GG because there's literally no way to overcome this strong played opponents, as they are having a strong upper hand right now. You can see that they are leading on score by 1,000, and that's quite a lot of difference. And looking at the villages, that's just too much. And yeah, unfortunately for CZs, they went for the risky strategy of the same civilizations, double Mongols, and it didn't pay off at all. Yeah, they suffered strongly, and they also suffered from the fact that they actually had a Viking on the right who had to defend and build an army, and that's really unfortunate. But at the same time, same could be said on the left, with Viking facing a Mongol, and well, there was a bit of a problem with the choke point, but still, some kind of landing could have been attempted, and some push as well, but it didn't, and yeah, it went like this, and better strategy by NC's prevailed, and it really seemed like that going for the trade cards on Atlantean Relics is much better than going for the relics themselves. But you can see that actually CZs had quite a lot of them in the end. They were taking quite a lot of them, with just a few, or rather several for the yellow player, but red was having quite a ton of them. Quite a lot of them, but wasn't enough. So let's have a look at the achievements. 16,000 score by Sniper. He was playing quite well as a Mongolian pocket. So not really bad indeed from him. Skull having nice unit skill, but unfortunately it wasn't really enough. But there were quite a lot of units lost. It mattered to him. A nice link to Pedro by Andorin. Yeah, quite a lot stronger. Well, quite a lot stronger. Seemed to be coming a bit sooner in here, but well, it was a better strategy by NCs which won them the game. So GG, and we will be waiting for game number 2.